Good morning and welcome to Monday Mornings with Margie. Good to be with you again. And I'm really excited. I have a special guest here with me this week, and I will let her share a little bit about herself.
Good morning, and my name is Trudy. My maiden name is Rouillard. My aunties corrected me and said it's the French Indian pronunciation, which is Rouillard, and then my married name is Soole.
And why don't you tell us just a little bit about your background professionally, or whatever you want to share about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, I always like to say, I am a proud mother of two sons, adult sons, and by marriage, I have 4 grandchildren. And I was born and raised in Sioux City, Iowa, as growing up predominantly in the neighborhoods where there wasn't a lot of color. So that was very difficult transitioning into, throughout life. So finished high school, later on, as a non-trad student, went to college, and then continued to work in the field of helping others, always helping others. My mother did that. My whole family's done that. And then I got my master's when I lived in New Mexico several years ago, about 16 years ago. And then I just moved back to my hometown to help with some family matters about 3 years ago. And I went into private practice. What really stands out in my mind is I didn't ever want to have to ask permission to smudge and offer a prayer or a blessing for anybody that I'm sitting with, whether they're non-native or native. And in some of the agencies that I worked for in the past, I had to ask permission and I had to explain. Mm-hmm. And then hear the snarky remarks. So everything moved, and now I'm in private practice, and it's just me. I have a biller and accountant, and they're not housed in my office. They're all over the country, and it works out really well, really, really well.
So, I mean, that leads us into our conversation today. We're going to be focusing in on the Native American community, which I'm looking forward to, because I will say that I don't feel like I am as enlightened or know as much specifically about this community. I'm looking forward to it. One of the things I was wondering is, could you tell people listening about what smudging is?
Yes. So it's a medicinal herb called sage that we go and pick at certain times of the year, and we only take as much as we need. And we offer tobacco to the plant and the Mother Earth before we take it. And I have been gifted over the years with some eagle feathers. And I was instructed, you pray with that, and you burn the sage, and you just kind of fan it around the person or the room, what have you, and that carries the prayer and the energy, if you will, to the heavens.
Yeah. Thank you for that description.
Sure. And that's pretty universal amongst tribes, I would say, amongst Native nations around the country.
Okay. So I guess first might be interesting to tell us a little bit about what made you specifically interested in working with the Native American community. I assume some of it has to do with your own heritage and life experience and so forth, but I'm just interested, what sort of were some of the key things that made you want to focus in on this group?
Well, years ago, I could see the disparity, and the unfairness with the way our Native people were treated, less than, or when we go to any kind of an appointment, usually we have family members that accompany us or we accompany them. And always getting the nonverbals, like, wow, this is just for you. So seeing that, and then one day I went to an outpatient treatment facility in town. And I said, look, I can offer you this program that I want to build, specifically designed to meet the needs of our Native population, because the treatment centers, inpatient, outpatient, what have you, seem to be missing meeting the needs for our Native people. And the director of the facility said, okay, do it. So I started facilitating adolescent groups, family groups, which I love, women's groups. And then when I opened it up to say, bring your family in, then we had a room, and I mean a room full of all colors. And it just took off. And I would bring the medicine people right in and the elders to be a part of the group so that they could continue to teach me and others in the circle. And then it just really took off because they felt like, and I can speak on this, from my perspective also, that they felt like there was somebody there that cared about their culture. There was somebody there that looked like them. And so it was a beautiful experience to be a part of and to witness. And, there again, I had to get permission to bring the elders in. I had to get permission to bring medicine people in. And I just don't want to, I don't think we should have to get permission to be who we are and start a circle, a talking circle, therapy circle in the way that we do.
Absolutely. A lot of what you're talking about sort of is an umbrella for a lot of the conversations I've had with people from different types of communities, generally minority communities, whether it's the LGBTQ plus community or Black and African American community or so forth. There's that whole thing about having people around you that you can identify with, people who look like you, people who understand your culture or what some of your experiences may be, and how that alone is healing and therapeutic to even just be in the presence of other people who look like you or have similar life experiences to you based on some identifying piece of who you are. So, that makes a lot of sense. And I could see, coming from a background in mental health where it doesn't fit in the traditional sort of sense of outpatient centers, yet it's so important at the same time. So it's amazing that you are doing what you're doing and that you're able to bring it to this community. So for people who don't know, who might be watching this, can you explain, when you talk about bringing elders and medicine people in, what does that mean? What does elders and medicine people mean?
Well, the elders are deeply revered in our culture, in the Native perspective. They are the ones who carry the wisdom. And so, since they have walked on this life on Mother Earth for so long, they're the ones who can really teach how to do your inner work, how to embrace the heartache and the pain. And so I meet with them, I stay very connected to them, and I invite them in to speak to to the groups. You know, even I just had a memory, even when I was a director of an inpatient treatment program in New Mexico,
Mhm.
and the program was designed for Native Americans. And there was a mix of some Hispanic, and of course we had the LGBTQ, and I had to get permission to bring in an elder
Mm.
and smudge. So the elder comes in, and very prayerful, very spiritual man, you know, holy person or woman,
Mhm.
uh, or of the LGBTQ pop, you know, very, very spiritual folks, and start facilitating the circle, opening up that energetic field. I mean, it's just beautiful to be a part of and to witness.
Mm.
And the medicine people, you know, you have to go find them.
Hmm.
They don't advertise who they are and where they are, and they don't give themselves that label or that name, or um, it's just known amongst the people.
Mhm.
So it's always been my interest to stay connected to them for help and health and healing, you
Mhm.
know, even in my own years of sobriety.
Mhm.
Um, that's really, really helped me stay connected to me, the universe, and that connection with our great spirit, you know, with creator. So I just love to share that knowledge and bring them in and teach, because a lot of us don't know what's the protocol to invite them in. What are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do?
Mm.
Um, and so if we don't do it, we don't send the questions out, we're not going to learn. And, you know, I'm not an expert by any means,
Mhm.
but I love learning, and
Yeah.
I love passing on the knowledge
Sure.
from them, because they're the wise ones.
Sure.
That's how I got to be where I'm at. They teach me. I stay connected to them in prayer and listen to them and go learn and just pay it forward.
Interesting. One question I have, and this may be an ignorant question, but I'm going to ask anyways, from a tribe's standpoint. So I would assume there's people from different tribes that are, it's not like you have, it's sort of like you're from one tribe and others have to stay out in these kind of settings that you bring in. How does that work?
Well, those that want to come, come. And we just operate from who, if the elder is from, let's say from my tribe, the Santee Sioux tribe of Nebraska, then they operate from their spiritual knowledge, their spiritual foundation.
Got it.
And so whether you're full blood, half blood, mixed races, LGBTQ, everybody's included. No one's excluded.
That's great. That's great. That's amazing. I think
Yeah.
we need so much more of that right now. And it's wonderful to hear that, you know, coming from you and what's happening out there. So talking more specifically about the Native American community, what would you say, how would you say the treatment of Native Americans sort of historically and currently impacts them? Where are the greatest areas sort of in their lives as individually and as a community do you see the greatest impact, either good or bad? Then maybe it's all bad, I don't know. I'm assuming there's good as well, but I'm curious from your perspective.
Well, I know there's power in numbers. You know, there was a lovely, lovely, lovely group called NANACOA, the National Association for Native American Children of Alcoholics,
Mhm.
all ages. Oh my golly. And they would go around the country wherever the tribes invited them.
Mm.
And I tell you what, it was so, uh, it would just bring you to tears, and your heart would just fill with joy to be in a huge conference room with all these people who are walking on that path. We call it the red road of sobriety. Wow. So that was a great, and they wove into the conference all of our traditions, you know, the drum, the sacred drum, the singers, the prayer every morning, the smudging. Oh, and they had elder circles and youth circles and women's circles and the men's circles. And then at night there would be what we call inipi, which means it's a sweat lodge, which means with this we give life. It's a very sacred ceremony. So all of that was included, and the laughter.
Yeah.
That's what really, you know, Native people are really known for that. That's perseverance, just laughter. Now, some of the I see some of the needs as we don't have enough Native women and men, or even the LGBTQ pop in our field. You know, by trade, I was a social worker, and now I'm a mental health counselor, and I specialize in addictions and family services, family systems, rather. Some of the great pioneers in our field, Jane Middleton Moz, wow, Claudia Black, you know, I really bring their work into my practice, which is for all people. And I share that historically where we came from. You know, my elders have always taught me, you have to know where you came from in order to know where you're going.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, you can make peace with that past, if you will, because there's a positive and a negative with all of it, the good and the not so good. Nothing happens by mistake. And I teach that, I pass that on, and, you know, help them find that spark, that inner spark, getting back to who you are and why you're here. What's so unique about you? You know, that's what they used to say to me. And then, you know, it's your job. You have to figure that out. You have to learn that. And then things just open up. And it's a process, you know, it's a slow process. And I like to be that role model. I like to lead by example. And it's it's a delicate dance. It really is. You know, when I work with Native folks, it's a lot of visiting and laughter and serious questions, and then visiting, laughter, and serious questions.
Sure.
And just let that energy kind of take hold of itself and, you know, encourage multiple resources, because I don't have all the answers. Go where you can get the most help. There's plenty to go around. And if I don't do my own inner work, I can't help them.
Yes. Yes. That is the absolute truth. In professionally, in being a therapist, but as a parent, it's the same thing. I mean, all aspects of our life, if we don't take care of us, it impacts all those other aspects of how we relate to people. I think that, you know, that it's interesting you talking about the laughter and sort of the connection, and then, you know, dealing with some of the harder questions and then coming back around. I think that in our fields, like, we talk so much about, you know, the different theories and strategies and what, you know, are you a CBT therapist or whatever, but at the end of the day, the relationship is so key in any of the work you're going to do. If you don't have that sense of connection and trust and relationship with the person you're working with, nothing else matters. And my sense of you is that the way you sort of operate is that that people must feel very connected and not intimidated and not less than in your work with them. And that's really important, because sometimes I think people think that the therapist is all knowing, and we're not, and so just from talking to you, I'm like, I'm sure you're magnificent at the work you do. So
Thank you. It's a daily thing. And when I sit with folks, boy, I'm in constant prayer, like, help me help them.
sure.
And that's evolved for me as a profession, because like you said, with the way we get trained, we don't talk about this stuff. It's almost taboo. We don't talk about energy work and all of that. My elders, my spiritual leaders have always known, even the ones who've crossed over, I talk to them more than I talk to the physical people, because they're my helpers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have all the answers, and I need their help. So it's a lot of listening with my heart
Mm.
and the silence. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. I love the silence, because in there lies the answer and the wisdom and the courage, and boy, and I get to do so many different things. I do consultant work. I go around, I offer my services to folks who, native and non-native, who need another person, a support person, to go to the doctor with them, or meet with administration at the school systems, or even on the collegiate level, because they feel like they're not being heard, or they're being talked over or interrupted. And so or to go to court with them. I've done that too. It's like, wow, being in private practice, I get to do a lot of different things that I can't do if I work for an agency. And,
Sure.
those were all good, valuable experiences. They got me to where I'm at today.
Absolutely.
And that's a blessing. But there's more, and there's still more. Even this opportunity, I want to thank you for this so much, because it's time. Like you said, we're living in a time right now where information needs to get out there.
Yeah.
We can get help wherever we are. It doesn't have to be right in our city, our hometown. And a lot of folks don't want to get help in their own town or their city because of privacy and confidentiality. When I've worked on different reservations in pueblos, people are gun shy about it. And I don't blame them. I am too. I would be too. I always say, healing is not all that appealing, or we'd have a line down the street and around the corner and up the hill.
It's so true. That is so true.
And hey, what,
Yeah.
hey man, some folks used to say, just come on over, so then it's like, well, I can't go to their house and have coffee because ethically,
Sure.
I'm bound by the licensure board that we can't cross that line. And so it's a delicate dance. I have to explain that and say, oh, I'd love to have coffee. Are you kidding?
Right.
Come to my office. We can have coffee.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny you were saying, that how healing is hard, or people would be, lined up. It's sort of that idea that, like, and I learned this over time, like, insight does not equal change, right? Like, a lot of people are super insightful. They may even know like what all their issues are, but it doesn't equal change, because change is, the hardest part of it, or really healing from whatever your wounds are. That is the hardest part of the work. So it's very, very true in all communities. It doesn't matter what community you come from.
That's right. That's right. But I like to teach folks, my mother used to tell me I was a teacher, and I'm like, teacher? I don't want to be a teacher. But now I know what she meant, not in such a literal translation, but I'm a storyteller. And so I teach through stories, and yeah, I teach that, from my own experience when working with medicine people, the things they told me, and protocol is you don't get to talk back to them and argue with them. You have to listen, and then you leave and you think about it. And so then I would drive back from the reservation and I'd be so mad. I'd give myself a headache, and I would go meet with my counselor at that time, non-native woman. And I'll be darned if she didn't tell me the same thing.
Mm.
And so there was that war within. It's kind of like, which wolf will you feed? Well, oh, I was angry. I thought the world did me wrong. And why would I pick this? And why would I choose that? Well, what they were both teaching me is life is merely about lessons. You just learn them and all the beautiful lessons from them, the good and the not so good, and you move through it, and you will get to that place where you can thank that experience. And I used to think, oh, right, why would I do that? But I do. Not all the time. Sure, I weeble wobble, but I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had, because it's, like I said, it's brought me to where I'm at today, and I can help others and share that, because they really want to hear that you're true,
Absolutely.
that you're authentic.
Yes.
My family, my mother used to always say that they're watching. They're all going to be watching it. The elders, everybody wants to see if you mean what you say and you say what you mean. They want to see what kind of person you are. And so that always is filed here in my mind. Yeah, this is who I am. And work on releasing that generational shame and trauma and guilt that gets passed on, I believe, from 7 generations behind us. We carry it forward, and then we have to learn in our therapeutic work. It's not mine to carry.
Sure.
And I have really worked at and continue to work at releasing that, and also seeing the value in it, because now I can recognize it when I see and hear it, and how to help folks and speak about it.
Sure.
Because all of us, all human beings, carry that. And then I work at releasing that. And because I also believe in generational healing, just as much as the trauma, we also have carried 7 generations of healing. We're still here. There's so much that we can tap into.
Sure.
As we do our work and bring it forward and bring it forward and bring it forward when folks seek it out.
True. 100% true.
Yeah.
So, what, I mean, I don't want to focus too much on all of, the specific issues within the Native American community. I'm sure there's a lot of things within the Native American community that's similar to every other community, but what are some of the things that you see that are sort of most notable of issues? I mean, you just talked about intergenerational trauma, and that's the case in lots of communities I've worked with, in particular, like the Cambodian community, people I've worked with intergenerational trauma. But what are some of the things that you see within the Native American community that sort of sticks out as either stressors or mental health issues? And then what are the resources? I mean, I'd like to also know, like, what's out there that people can seek out? Because it's, we talk about, okay, these are the issues, or these are the focal points, but what are the things to help people out there?
Well, I think that some of the barriers for them getting the help is finances, transportation and finances. Not everybody has the luxury of, you know, a fancy phone that can connect to a hotspot or Wi-Fi or social media.
Mhm.
That would be great, because now, you know, I have clients all over the country and they have access to this type of service that you and I are on now.
Yeah.
But I like to also say now we're moving into where you can just call me. But again, some folks don't even have a phone, or they have to pay, they have to travel a distance to put money on the phone, you know, wherever they purchase it at.
Mm.
And those phones are used primarily for familial needs. You know, it's not just because it's my phone doesn't mean the rest of my family can't use it.
Right.
So, but I see that expanding. I think we're moving in the right direction. Things are changing. We're more accessible. And resources, you know, I believe we need more of us, but now I think folks will be able to have, we need to be more visible. People
Mhm.
need to know we're here. You know, there's a Native woman there, a Native woman there, a man there. They need to know where we are,
Sure.
so that they know where they can find the resources.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really know too many Native counselors, even in our own town. You know, there might be one other one, but I'm not sure. I'm a networker also. What she does, it's a lot of family systems, I think, with the courts or maybe the youth. But
Mhm.
I believe, you know, if we're going to help the youth, we have to help the whole family.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not that she's doing anything wrong. I know she's providing a great service.
Mhm.
And, you know, we have health and wellness fitness centers for all the urban Indians here in the community.
Mhm.
Um, we have some nonprofit things, but we really need, in my opinion, uh, I really want to help people relinquish some of that pain that they carry so that they can have a joy. Their birthright is joy.
Sure.
And, you know, depression is so terribly high amongst our Native people, and suicide. And, you know, we have the poorest healthcare in the nation. All of that needs to be accessible,
Mhm.
you know, and I know it's out there. We have to find it. I mean, when I moved in those great circles with, as I mentioned earlier, Nanakoa, wow. And just because we're Native doesn't mean we're poverty stricken. You know,
Sure.
I heard a gentleman say that the other day, the stigma. Wow, like we're not supposed to have a nice car or dress nice or no, 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 totally no, not cool. Or
Okay.
you have to be a certain age to be able to speak up and out about certain things. No, if you carry the wisdom
Mhm.
and the information, it's time to share it.
Mm.
As long as it comes from here, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
from your heart.
Mhm. Hmm. Is there a lot of stigma of mental health issues within the Native American community?
You know, I think there's a lot of stigma in all communities for
Yeah.
reaching out.
Yeah.
Or the line would be out the door, down the street, and up the hill. But I think that, you know, we're a very private people, as are all people,
Mhm.
and we keep things in.
Mhm.
Trust is a big barrier.
Mhm.
You know, we've got to find that right person, like you said, that we can fit with. And, you know, I've had the experience of having some counselors tell me things about my family that you know, like I shouldn't be around them, or I shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. And I'm like, You know, hey man, that's my family.
Mhm.
That's my kin, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do."
Mhm.
And so there was that judgment I could feel.
Mm.
So I really believe in a valuable lesson learned there,
Mhm.
because, you know, ultimately the people are going to do what they're going to do.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's why I love working with family systems, because they know best.
Mhm.
They have the answers. I'm just the guide.
Mhm.
And so I think that, you know, getting back to that, yeah, depression, anxiety, things that we don't talk about, that hidden shame, the guilt, even eating disorders,
Mhm.
whether it's obesity or anorexia nervosa, and the stigma with the LGBTQ pop. I work with a great elder, and we always talked about how sacred they are. They are the ones who were called upon in the village to name the children. What an honor
Mm.
to name a newborn, because their energy was so aligned with the male and the female. They and it was known. But we get removed from that, but it's still there. We just have to go back and tap into all that knowledge, that
Mhm.
old knowledge, the wisdom that's there. And I everybody has a purpose, and so I really believe that, yeah, the stigma's there with all cultures reaching out for help. And that fear, just holding on to that fear. People hold on to it so long that they become it, and they
Mhm.
can't find their way out. They normalize it. They think it's just, you know what? This is the life I've been dealt, so I'm just gonna, and serve it, substance abuse services. That's one of my areas of expertise. I'm not an expert in it, but boy, there's something about working with addictions. Those people are real. They know, like you said, they know what's going on. They know
Mhm.
what all their issues are.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's like, how can we see what they've been doing that's negatively impacted their life or positively, and then turn it around and move it in a positive direction for them? What do they want to do?
Mhm.
That's why I love to map genograms and map it all out for them. Something visual. We're visual people, native people. And it's like, wow, when you put it on the flip chart, light bulbs come on.
Mhm.
It's just amazing. So I think getting creative in the mythology of the way we deliver our services.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've inspired me during this conversation. I there's a need for creativity, and there's a need for people. Yes, we have certain limitations and boundaries, and like you said, ethics that are important, but there's a need for realness and authenticity and creativity, and to think outside the box, to help people. And people know when you're doing that. People know when you're authentic. People know when you're thinking outside the box. People know when you're sitting with them in their pain versus, sort of just observing it. And that relationship and connectedness, and energy passing back and forth, like you talked about, is so important. So I'm sure that the people who work with you are in very, very, very good hands.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it's really good to talk about, to learn more about Native American culture. It's actually, made me realize that, maybe it's more something I want to learn more about and read more about. And I think that's like what you said, I love to learn as well. So, so thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us, and your good energy and your big heart with us. It's much appreciated.
It's an honor and a privilege, to carry forth the information that I've learned from all walks of life, everything I've been through with, my husband, my sons,
Mhm.
my first husband, all my relatives, all of that. It's just a blessing,
Mhm.
to bring that forth. And thank you for inviting me.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you to all our listeners and viewers. I'm sure you'll really enjoy this discussion. And I hope you all have a good week. Take care and be well.